Hey everybody, in a previous video I mentioned that most contemporary translations of the New Testament will just omit over a dozen different passages from the body of the text, and some folks reached out and asked if I could list those other passages, so let's take a look. So this chart shows the passages that were omitted from the New Testament in the RSV's edition of the New Testament. These days there are about 16 of these passages that are most commonly omitted. You can see at the top the different translations. If there is an O for that passage, that means it is omitted from the body of the text. If there is an F, it means the passage is included by that translation in the body of the text, but in a footnote they note that ancient manuscripts omit this passage. Now I want to comment on two passages that are omitted from the RSV but not from any other translations, and these are longer passages that are pretty deeply embedded in the tradition, so most translations are not comfortable just omitting them entirely, although they will often set them off in brackets and state in the footnotes that these stories are not found in the earliest manuscripts. The first of these is the story of the woman taken in adultery from the end of John chapter 7 and the beginning of John chapter 8. This doesn't show up in the manuscripts until around the 4th century, and it's found in different positions in the book of John and even once in the book of Luke before finally settling in the position where it's found today. So this is very unlikely to go back to the author of John, and while some people argue that this is likely a historical tradition that was transmitted orally before being added to the text, I don't think we have enough data to be able to conclude that securely. The other is everything from Mark 16:9 to the end of the book of Mark. This seems to be a secondary addition to the text, and the book of Mark seems to have originally ended at verse 8 with the disciples fleeing in fear. So it's a bit of a cliffhanger. And that may be because the book of Mark may have originally functioned more as a screenplay than a novel, something that was intended to be performed, and that's just a dramatic way to end the performance. And the ancient witnesses have a shorter ending, which is kind of a postscript, and then the longer ending, which is what is found in most traditional Bibles based on the Textus Receptus.